All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Vietnam Market Entry Opportunities and Strategy webinar hosted by Sunwah Innovations in association with the Vietnam National Innovation Centers, NIC, and InnoLab Asia. We are very glad that you are joining us today. My name is Thuy Ho from Sunwah Innovations, and I'm pleased to be your MC today. As a Hong Kong-based conglomerate operating in Vietnam for more than 50 years, Sunwah Group has acknowledged the huge potential of the country for overseas enterprises to do business here. Vietnam rising as the regional startup hub has urged us to foster and gain exposure to innovations over the past 2 years with the launch of Sunwah Innovation in Ho Chi Minh City. Our mission is to boost the cross-border exchange among startup ecosystem and enhance access to market expansion opportunities for startups. In this webinar, we put a spotlight on Vietnam in response to the increasing need from international startups and ecosystem players to explore and gain footholds in this market. We are greatly thankful to the NIC and InnoLab Asia and our speakers from Golden Gate Ventures, Courage, and UEH Institute of Innovations for your support to make this webinar happen. Also, big thanks to our Sunwah International Innovation Platform partners from Vietnam, mainland China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Korea, Japan, and many other locations to spread the word and bring a very diversified audience to the webinar today. In terms of the programs, after the welcome remarks, delivered by the leaders from Sunwah Innovations and the NIC, we will have 2 keynote speeches to share about the government incentives and advantages of the market offering to overseas businesses, followed by a 30-minute panel discussion. Lastly, we will have 50 minutes for your question and discussion with the panelists. In the chat box, you can see the notes for the attendees where we put the link to the program and the bios of all our wonderful panelists today. We encourage you to type your questions to the panelists into the Q&A function at the toolbar of the Zoom webinar. We will consolidate and answer them during the Q&A session. We will also select some questions that some participants sent to us in advance during the registration to raise to our panelists too. So let's get started. First of all, it gives me pleasure to invite Mr. Jesse Choi, Director of Sunwah Vietnam and CEO of Sunwah Innovations for the welcome speech. Mr. Jesse, please.
Thank you, Thuy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Sunwah Group and Sunwah Innovations, it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you here today to participate in the webinar hosted by Sunwah Innovations titled Vietnam Market Entry Opportunities and Strategy. We are proud to join hands with Vietnam National Innovation Center and InnoLab Asia to introduce Vietnam market to the overseas startups and partners. Vietnam is in a favorable position to reap political and economic achievements. Thanks to its stable political system and several successful economic reforms, Vietnam showed remarkable resilience against the pandemic, with GDP grew by 2.9% in 2020 and 2.6% in 2021. It is important to note that Vietnam is one of the few countries retaining positive growth in 2020 and 2021, when the COVID-19 hit the hardest. Shared by the World Bank 2022, Vietnam's growth rate is expected to reach over 5.5% in 2022, whilst the inflation rate remains stable and under control. Foreign investments play a key role in Vietnam's economic growth. According to the 2021 World Investment Report by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, Vietnam is, for the first time, in the top 20 global countries attracting large FDI. In an effort to make the country more FDI friendlier, Vietnamese government has gradually simplified legal procedures and streamlined the bureaucratic process related to decision-making, which in turn facilitate FDI inflows into Vietnam. Lower trade and investment barriers for participating countries, provide better market access for Vietnamese exports, and encourage reforms that support foreign investors. That's why we, Sunwah, have been doing business in Vietnam for more than 50 years. Sunwah Group is a Hong Kong-based international conglomerate founded in 1957. Our business in Vietnam started in 1970 with seafood processing, and since then, the group has continued to diversify its investment in real estate, financial services, coffee trading, agriculture, and dry food products. In 2018, when Vietnam rolled out many policies and programs to improve the country's innovation capability and boost entrepreneurship among Vietnamese people, we have expanded our business to innovation field. Since 2018, Sunwah Innovations has been actively working with corporates, startups, and other components in the startup ecosystem of various countries and regions to facilitate exchange, enhance understanding, and together seek out new solutions. In 2020, Sunwah Innovation Center, Ho Chi Minh City, and Sunwah International Innovation Platform, SWIP for short, have been officially launched to form a global network of leading universities, incubators, accelerators, investors, corporations, and other organizations in many locations all over the world, showing Sunwah's commitment to the growth of startups and SMEs. So far, SWIP has over 30 partners, including leading universities, corporates, and support organizations from mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau, Korea, Japan, Singapore, Canada, Cambodia, and Vietnam. We have also opened other innovation centers in Hanoi, Cambodia, as well as Guangzhou, Tianjin, Nanjing, Shenyang, Wuxi, Beijing, and Beijing of mainland China to serve as a base of supporting innovative products and service of startups. Over the last few years, Sunwah Innovations has worked with other partners in many programs, such as bringing Vietnamese startups to Hong Kong to participate in elevator pitch competition hosted by Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks, and also co-organizing with the Ho Chi Minh City Department of Science and Technology to introduce Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area to Vietnamese startups, as well as supporting various startup competition in the region. After these events, we realized that there's a rising demand of the overseas startups and supporting organizations to know more about Vietnam and how to expand their operations to the country. That's why this webinar is organized today as an effort to introduce Vietnam market and its potential to overseas participants, and at the same time facilitate more exchange between the stakeholders of Vietnamese ecosystem with its international peers. On this occasion, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to Vietnam National Innovation Center and InnoLab Asia as our two SWIP partners for their strong support in organizing this webinar. I'd also like to send my regards to all the speakers from Correct, Golden Gate Ventures, and Institute of Innovation under University of Economics, Ho Chi Minh City, for their participation in the panel discussion. I believe their valuable insight will bring new knowledge on how overseas business, especially startups, can enter and prosper in Vietnam market. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chessy. Now it's my honor to introduce Mr. Do Tien Thich, Vice Director of the Vietnam National Innovation Centers, or NIC for short. NIC is a unit of the Ministry of Planning and Investment, acting as the focal point to develop mechanisms and policies for the growth of innovation in Vietnam. Mr. Thich will deliver his remarks and then also the keynote speech on Vietnam market overview and the government favorable policies to attract FDI enterprises, including startups. Mr. Thich will speak in Vietnamese, so for our English-speaking audience, you can switch to the interpretation line at the toolbar to listen in English. Before Mr. Thich's speech, I would like to invite you to watch a short video introducing NIC, so please take a look.
Vietnam National Innovation Center, NIC, is a unit under the Ministry of Planning and Investment, established by the Prime Minister's decision on October 2nd, 2019. NIC has the function of supporting and developing Vietnam's innovation ecosystem, which will help to transform the development model into innovation driven by science and technology advancement. The center will perform key tasks including supporting businesses to access resources, promoting connection of innovation ecosystem, developing high-quality human resources, operating innovation networks of Vietnam, providing public services for businesses and the community, In its long-term development strategy, NIC will focus on 5 key areas: smart city, smart factory, digital media, cybersecurity, environmental technology. NIC is expected to become the nucleus in promoting product development, the adoption of advanced technology, and encouraging testing for new business models. On an area of approximately 23 hectares in Hoa Lạc High Tech Park, NIC is built with a central complex and a service facility area. The NIC main building is designed with the image of an eagle's wings taking off, symbolizing the realization of innovative ideas, building breakthrough values, and propelling businesses. Available spaces include Integrated Service Center, providing public services to meet the needs of enterprises and communities. Enterprise Space, providing flexible office space for corporations and enterprises. Co-working space, providing convenient meeting rooms and supporting activities to enhance networking opportunities. Technology Exhibition Center, introducing the latest applications in technology research and development. Open Laboratory, providing advanced equipment for experimenting and testing products. Event Space, providing a venue for conferences, seminars, and business meetings. Beside the central complex, there will be a service area with a full range of functional facilities comprising of serviced apartments, sports complexes, dining and entertainment areas, and science parks. Regarding incentive policies, NIC is an innovation center at the national level and will be enjoying preferential mechanisms specified in the Government Decree No. 94/2020. NIC is a model that can be replicated to localities and economic regions. Member innovation centers can associate, cooperate, and apply preferential policies to effectively support innovation activities and promote local advantages. With a long-term vision, NIC aims to connect ASEAN innovation hubs to establish a dynamic innovation system in the region. NIC's core values are industrial pioneering, constant innovation, development cooperation, creative connectivity. NIC will drive Vietnam's innovation ecosystem to grow stronger and contribute to national development in the new era.
Good afternoon. Can you see my slide? Okay. Good afternoon, and dear Mr. Choi, and dear own participant. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. And on behalf of Vietnam Innovation Center, so I would like to thank you to participate this event. And now I would like to introduce a little bit about the policy and mechanism of Vietnam to attract investment and encourage market entry to Vietnam. So because time is short, so I will talk by English, so it's more easy for you to follow. So in my slide, I would like to have two key main points. Firstly, I would like to introduce about the overall view of investment attraction and market insight of FDI enterprise in Vietnam. And second, I tell a little bit about the mechanism and policy to attract and support investment for FDI enterprise, including overseas startup. And here you can see the, some picture about the overview of FDI capital in Vietnam. And you can see here every year the realized capital increase and now reach about $20 billion realized capital $billion every year. And you can see the trend continue up. And here you can see some number. I separate some number by country, by sector, and by city. You can see some province, some city. We attract a lot of FDI and startup company like Ho Chi Minh City, Bình Dương City, or Hanoi City. And by sector, by business line, you can see. Almost FDI company invest in processing, manufacturing, and it's around 60%. And by country and by economy, you can see the number one is South Korea, or you can see the Hong Kong economy is fine. So it is a very important country and region for Vietnam. And this slide, you can see some number about update FDI overview. And in the first quarter 2022, and realized capital also increased by 7.8%, and we reached $4.4 billion. And it's very good news for Vietnam. And in that, after COVID-19, we have a crisis, and like many economy, like many countries, we have problem with economy. But now you can see the FDI continue to increase. And here I would like to say some law and some legal framework to tell all of you about the policy of Vietnam to support for startup, to support for small and medium enterprise. First of all, in Vietnam, we have a law on support for small and medium-sized enterprise, and now in Vietnam we have a 95% is a small and medium-sized enterprise. That's why the government, we have a lot of policy and mechanism for help them. And 2 years ago, the Vietnam National Assembly issued law on investment. I emphasize it's a new policy of Vietnam, and the law on investment issued 2020, and this law have a lot of policy to support for FDI company, also for startup company. And we also have law on technology transfer. We also have some degree, like the degree 94 for NC for the enterprise setup, location in NC. And we also Prime Minister also have some decision to create some national program. First of all, we have a decision number 188 and issued last year, and Prime Minister have changed something to national program for supporting startup ecosystem. And for you to more understand about our policy, I guideline something here. First of all, law on investment 2020. We have some I check here some new policy. First of all, you can see the policy. We will create policy to create the tax incentive for investment project focus on innovative startup, and by this law, the startup or FDI company can reduce the tax and can get the tax exemption. And we also think about how to reduce procedure for startup, reduce procedure for foreign investor. That's why in law on investment 2020, we have the new procedure. We call it simplified procedure, allowing foreign investor can set up small or medium startup with the very simple procedure. And here I introduce a little bit about the very detailed the incentive in our policy, and you can see the two columns here, and you can compare. And here you can see in Vietnam we separate two kind of incentive to support for FDI company. If you invest some priority project like clean tech or high tech, so we can get the incentive. And first of all, you can see if you will invest in the high technology, normal income tax, you will have to pay only 10% in 30 years. And if you become the you have a very big project, so you can get special income tax, and you can see in the third column. And this final slide, I would like to say why the investor, why company, why startup should come to Vietnam to invest and to expand the market. And I list here the 8 I think it's main reason why you should see the Vietnam market. You can see in Vietnam we have a very stable politics. Also, we have an open society, and when some slide I show all of you, it express that our cost, I mean the production cost, very low. So that's why we have a very good competitive when we make a product and service in Vietnam, and that's why now we export over than a lot of countries like Vietnam now. And you can see we have a very good human resource, and now Vietnam population in the period we call it golden population structure. So it's very good for investor come to Vietnam. And besides the government and all the ministry, all the local government always welcome and support for enterprise and also for startup. And now we have a lot of policy with many incentive and support. And so you can if you need more detail and information, so please contact with Sunwah Innovations or contact to NIC, and we can send you more detailed information. And so thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Tate, and many thanks for delivering the speech in English. So to make sure that the information is well received, it's very critical for us to have the government voice in the webinar to learn about the Vietnamese government efforts in creating a more attractive environment for FDI in the field of technology and innovations, as a result, benefiting overseas startups, investment fund, and other startup support organizations to join the local ecosystem. So now to understand what are specific driving forces behind Vietnam Magnets for overseas business and also the vibrant updates of Vietnam startup scene, I'm pleased to introduce our second keynote speaker, Mr. Công Thắng Huỳnh, co-founder and CEO of InnoLab Asia. InnoLab Asia is the implementation partner of the Open Innovation Vietnam, a national initiative by the National Agencies for Technology, Entrepreneurship and Commercialization Development under the Ministry of Science and Technology to strengthen the linkage among corporates, SME and startups. So Mr. Thắng, please.
Thank you, Ms. Thầy, for introducing, and thank you, Sunwah Inno, for helping me. Hi, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here. Let me share my slide. Okay, we have it here. Okay. So everyone see my slide? So first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Thạnh for already share the opportunity that Vietnam actually can bring to the foreign company, and as the one that you to support the foreign company to supply in Vietnam market and help them to raise funds as well as to help them from a legal side. So today, some of the part about Vietnam, I would love to skip it, and I would love to focus more on what we are doing through the year to help foreign company from Korea or Taiwan or Singapore or Thailand coming to Vietnam, and which framework that we help them, and how can we get them understand this market so they can be successful here. So that I think that will be easier for you to listen, and you don't have to hear something that already repeat twice. Okay. Let me skip this part, because my team and I we repair a lot, so there's a lot of things about Vietnam. But for Vietnam today, I just love to share this framework that we already work with the startup. So for those of you who actually look at Vietnam as a potential market, that's why you join this event. And I know that when I look at the attendance list, I see that, wow, this is really great. And instead of talking about why you want to come here, what attracts you, I think the best way that I can help you is to guide you how you can penetrate in this market and which framework for you to apply, which is much better than just share what attraction about Vietnam, which is not really attractive anymore, as Mr. Thạnh already said that. So for the market entry framework, normally we use this 4 pillars to talk with our partner. The first one, we ask them to check the market potential. Even Vietnam, the Vietnamese, we are from the inside, so we can say that Vietnam is very attractive in this way and that way. But you from, maybe most of the audience today, you from Hong Kong, so the way that you look at Hong Kong based on your industry perspective may be a bit different. Maybe you from the F&B industry, so Vietnam may be the best fit, but what kind of food that you want to want to serve in Vietnam, for example, if you are like the one that penetrate like McDonald's, they have a big brand in other country, but they still struggle in Vietnam. So if you don't check the market potential, but beside on that, you don't check the competitive landscape, who is actually play on the route and who can direct or indirectly affect what you jump in the market, it will affect a lot. And you know, like the company capacity is something that we have to take like a few weeks with them to test like what is their capacity, because you may have some advantages or privilege in your own country, but doesn't mean that when you penetrate here, you can have that. And your internal resource may not be a bit late if you invest in here. And Sunwah, I think Sunwah Corporation, they know this one very well because they've been here more than 50 years. And this one has to be analyzed very well in their capacity. And the last thing that we're talking about is the financial implication. And for this one, I will have another graph that I'll show later for the cost. Because for this one, if you want to penetrate in Vietnam market, and let's say you're planning to penetrate in Vietnam market for about 6 months to get your office here, your team to build here, and you just have enough finance around 6 months, that you have to reconsider it, because this market look very potential in one way, but other player and the competitor within the country still very strong too. And if you just repair just enough to penetrate, it's very hard for you to win the market or to attract the good talent, because the ratio between the ratio of cost structure in each business, in each industry is very different. And when you put the finance on your side and you don't put enough, it's gonna be a big mess for that. And you know, like on the slide, on the second slide, on the second phase of the slide, I show that for the market research, for example, I normally ask the people to do it from 1 to 3 months to make sure that they really understand that. But that for most of the traditional business, but those who already do familiar with tech, especially for a startup, you guys can leverage from that, and you don't need to have that much time. But for business research, please make sure that you understand that very well from the outside, either actually now available on the internet and your partner here. And if you want to penetrate through some other partner, well, I really recommend that you should join some of the acceleration program or some of the incubation program, which is make you go faster on the way. And those who have the money and those who want to know the channel, know the system through the local partner by the partnership or the M&A, well, you can do it too. But it will take a few months for your information, and you need to do your homework before you jump in this market. And if you don't do it well, it's gonna be a big issue on it. And for the next slide, I would love to share this one. If you look at the chart on the, if you look at the pie on the right side, you see that, well, depends on the industry, depends on the different organization or different type of business model. The cost structure can be different. So the good thing about the salary and wages in Vietnam is way more less than the ratio here I show. So this is just an example. And one of the part that I really want to emphasize that the marketing, the role and marketing here. We have the Vietnamese use the Facebook as a communication, and we have Zalo in Vietnam. So let's say you can do some of the marketing from your own country to do it here, to test the market, which is really great. And the ratio cost for you is a lot lesser. So if you consider like, okay, for the office, you can set up the virtual office first, and then you can have a few seats. So let's say sit in the Sunwah Inno, how much does it cost? Is a couple $100 US per month, right, for one seat. And you can find that in other co-working space, whereas you can easy to mingle with the local community to understand, and you just have to pour a few staff first, and then you can do it later. So in terms of the staff, in terms of the office marketing, the number of Vietnamese that have a smartphone, I think that for one of the slides that show, we have very high number of people in nearly 100 million people that 100 million phone are sold in Vietnam. And with that number, let's say if you do some of the marketing through Instagram or TikTok, which is like a foreign platform, and this is the good and the bad. This is a pro and con too, but it's gonna save you a lot of money on the cost structure. So from that point of view, I think when you come to Vietnam and you prepare for the market research as well, and if you come to Indonesia or you come to Thailand, the cost structure, you cannot find that, and the ratio of each part, like the salary or the cost of sale or the office rental, I think that is a much higher, and it's not really easy for you to tolerate in like a long period of time. Like some of the startup that we support they penetrated in Vietnam market in 2019, and they are the education center, and if they don't have they don't do the preparation well, they don't reserve the finance enough, I don't think that after 2 years of COVID they cannot be here, but they are still here, and they about to expand in other provinces in Vietnam, and which is really good news about those who repair, especially for the cost structure and the finance that they can reserve for some of the pandemic or some of the recession that coming. It can help them a lot. And one of the good thing about Vietnam is that our economy is quite stable because we have the stable politics, which is Mr. Thịnh already mentioned, which also really good that for you to see the benefit from it and take advantage of it. So my last word, if you really penetrate in this market, first of all, please do the market research very well and make it as a must-have for your task if you want to come here. The second one is also back to the basic, find a local partner, because one thing a week, I myself I welcome more than 20 people that coming to Vietnam, and everyone always say that the human touch, the offline meeting, the relationship that we build can help us to do business together. And this is something that, well, before you penetrate in any market, please check yourself, your network, find someone that you can trust, and then make a good market research on it, blend yourself well, try to find 4 pillars: market potential, competitive landscape, company capacity, and financial implication. And from there, test. If you stick on yes, please come to this market. And we would love to help you with that. Because for years, those who repair very well, we can help them stay here and grow very well. And those who did not repair well, even us, we already said that you cannot jump in this market like this. And yeah, just for a few months, they cannot survive here. So if you want to go to this market, it's very potential, but at the same time, it's very challenging if you don't repair well. So thank you. If you have any question, I can answer later. The information of my company, I think I'll show it later, but I think that will enough here. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, anh Thắng, for a very helpful guideline on the Vietnam market entry. So the next session, we will start our panel discussion to take a closer look at the prominent opportunities and recommended approach for overseas startups when entering Vietnam and looking for a local business partner. We are delighted to bring together a panelist lined up from various backgrounds, including corporate, venture capital fund, support organizations, and startups for a multi-dimensional view on the market entry potential and challenges. So once again, don't miss the chance to ask our panelists. Please type your question into the Q&A function, maybe with a short introduction like your name, your business or organizations, where you're from, to help our panelists better address your question. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce our panelists. Again, we have Mr. Công Thắng Huỳnh from InnoLab Asia, Mr. Vinny Loria, founding partner of Golden Gate Ventures, Ms. Katie Nguyen, Vice Director of Sunwah Innovations, and Mr. Tim Lee, founder and CEO of Correct. The panel discussion will be moderated by Mr. Kelvin Vương, Incubation Manager of the University of Economics, Ho Chi Minh City Institute of Innovations. So Kelvin, I hand over to you and look forward to the panel discussion.
So thank you very much. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the panel discussion today with the topic of Vietnam market entry, opportunities and how to collaborate with Vietnamese companies. So glad to see all of you on a lovely afternoon. As introduced, I'm Kevin. I'm from the UEH Institute of Innovation. So now please put your hand together to welcome all of our panelists today. So before we actually start a section today, so I would like to hear from each of the panelists. Could you please briefly introduce about yourself? So starting with, I think lady first, starting with Ms. Katie.
Yeah, hi, Kevin. Hi, the panelists and all the audience. So I'm Katie Nguyen, and actually I'm the Vice Director of Sunwah Innovations and also with the Sunwah Group for more than 10 years, supporting the business development of the group in Vietnam and also supporting other business delegations from overseas to Vietnam to explore the market. So it's happy to be here today. So I think we can bring out the experience and also what we have in Vietnam market to share with the audience.
Yeah, thank you. So how about Mr. Công Thắng? Just introduce briefly about yourself one more time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, and Kevin. So my name is Thắng. I'm from InnoLab Asia. So we consult the corporate about the corporate innovation framework, and we help the startup to raise fund, connect, and work with the big corporation. At the same time, we also mentor the startup, help them grow from the beginning. So with a lot of program for the market entry, that we have hundreds of foreign startups that coming to Vietnam. And I'm happy to share that, well, we did quite well on it. And that's why we received a lot of requests recently.
Oh, glad to hear that. Next up, let's welcome Mr. Vinny Loria.
Sure. Hi everyone. So my name is Vinny Loria, founding partner of Golden Gate Ventures. Thank you for inviting me to take part in this event. Found the conversation dialogue very interesting so far. Golden Gate Ventures is an early stage venture capital firm that has been investing across Southeast Asia since 2011. So quite a bit of experience doing things cross-border. And we've really identified in our targets the startup golden triangle of Southeast Asia, which is Singapore, Vietnam, and Indonesia.
Awesome, awesome. So last but not least, please welcome Mr. Tim Lee, CEO from Correct.
Hello guys, my name is Tim Lee. I'm a CEO and founder of Correct. So Correct is an on-demand platform for premium car care. So we literally deliver car wash and engine oil replacement all around in Hanoi. And we recently launching our service in Ho Chi Minh. And until now, we got the funding by global VC called Antler and the local venture capital whose name is Sontech Investment by Vietnamese local VC. And then in the meantime, we are also having many MOU with some other platform called like Aha Move and others like a Zoomcar or auto.com.vn. So they are the player who is in the marketplace for automotive. So we are currently we're trying to make some of the traction in Vietnam market, and then in the meantime we're gonna expand to another country. Yeah, and thank you for inviting us, and it seems very interesting to share with you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. So all of the attendees, feel free to drop the questions at the Q&A box. So we're gonna address some of your questions. Also, we try to explain as much as possible about the opportunities and also the challenges during the visit in Vietnam. So let's talk about the business. Let's talk about the opportunities, right? So Vietnam startup scenes has witnessed many vibrant happenings over the past 3 years, despite the COVID-19 pandemics and also external headwinds. So I would like to say the very first question for Ms. Katie and Mr. Thang. So for overseas startups interested in entering the market, so what's the landscape of the competition look like? And what are the most prominent opportunities in the market, or which sectors as on the raising, opening up plenty of space for overseas startup to jump in? So starting first with the ladies, our beautiful ladies. So Ms. Katie, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Kevin. So I think for the startup scene, I think Mr. Ting and Mr. Thang just shared a little bit in their keynotes about the potential of the market. However, I think at the moment, actually Vietnam is now is home to more than 3,000 innovative startups. And we have some unicorns in the countries like VNG, VN Life, Momo, which is a very famous payment gateway. And also we have Sky Mavis, who is famous for Axie Infinity, an NFT game. And actually those 4 unicorns actually value at more than $1 billion US. And we are still have more than another 11 enterprises value at more than $100 million US. And last year, even the COVID pandemic hit Vietnam also very hard. We have like more than 3 months, very intense lockdown in Ho Chi Minh City. However, the country still attracted a lot of FDI and also the capital and also the attraction from the startup ecosystem, not only in Asia, but also all over the world. And so far, we have more than 1,300 successful business acquisition, totaling more than 1 billion in 2021, and focusing on fintech, e-commerce, F&B, and also gaming and blockchain companies. And all that I can say last year, and also I believe in the years to come, will be a great opportunity for overseas startups and SME to come in the Vietnam market. And for the opportunities, I have to say, during the last 5 or I think 6 years, Vietnam has been attracting a lot of overseas startups. And however, we are still looking to expand to more areas in the country. For example, like so far, the Vietnamese startup has not yet tapped into the some areas like telemedicine, cybersecurity, agri-tech, or even deep tech. And also the impact startups is also now a trend for all the VCs and also even the government organizations to look at. So I can tell it should be a trend. And I believe that Anh Thang will also add more insight into that.
Yeah, thank you. And Anh Thang, any add-on to that? It's very interesting.
Katie just paint a very nice picture about Vietnam. But let me add a bit. So during pandemic on 2021, Vietnam attract more than 2.3 billion US dollar on the ecosystem, and it's quite interesting with that. And you see, like the top 5 of the top 5 sector that attract the most amount of fund is fintech, e-commerce, edtech, medtech, and SaaS, software as a service. And one of the point that I agree, and this not agree with Katie, is that, well, we have some of the global challenge. So now the world are talking about the green tech and some of the deep tech, and as well as like some of the food lab, for example. At the same time, Vietnam is still trying to focus more on the agri-tech, which is actually we have it, but we don't have our story to tell yet because we are on the way to improve. But I have to say, like in the next few years, proud to share, we will have some company that stand and attract millions of US dollar in funding with that. And back to the point that, you know, like back into 2000, Vietnam have the first generation of founder, and from 2000 to 2006, there's the first generation, and the second generation is from 2007 to 2014. That is the generation that they quit from the big corp and they start their own startup. And some already exist from the previous generation. And the third one, until now, those who actually have the regional mindset and willing to partner with the Vietkill and the foreign partner, which is make this market is very exciting and allow people coming to this market. Let's say the foreign partner with the Vietnamese one is a perfect match. And some of my partners saying that if you come to Vietnam, and your partner is a CTO or some guy that have the unique background with the local insight, you are on the right track. And yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you for sharing, Ms. Katie and Mr. Pham. So just a wonderful landscape with huge potential for Vietnam as a market. So for this optimistic picture, let's hear the voice from a VC person. So Mr. Vietnamese Laurier, founding partners of Golden Gate Venture. So just for your information, in case you may not know, so Golden Gate Ventures has been investing across South Asia over the past 10 years with offices in Singapore, Indonesia, and now just officially setting a physical presence in Vietnam with 2 offices in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, the 2 biggest startup hubs in Vietnam. So Vinny, so how do you view the potentials of Vietnam startup ecosystem, and what are the exciting opportunities and the fields to urge Golden Gate Ventures make this strategic move?
Sure. So I break that out into 2 parts. I would say, in terms of opportunities, endless. So Vietnam is currently at an inflection point. I was muted. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we hear you now.
Sorry about that.
Perfect.
So I was going to say, in terms of, I'll break that into 2 parts, but in terms of opportunities, I think unlimited. So Vietnam is currently at an inflection point, and an inflection point is in a startup is where that growth curve really takes off, and it's the favorite spot for a VC. So you have all these factors coming together in terms of education, young population, emerging middle class that's growing very, very rapidly, global tension that is looking more towards Vietnam for manufacturing of electronics and being part of that global supply chain. So all of these things are coming together. So the opportunity now, health tech, education tech, consumer marketplaces, job tech, B2B services. So just across the board, as you know, for anybody on the call, what's like very hot or very interesting right now, education tech, hands down, health tech services providing, doesn't have to be deep technology, but health services, pharmaceutical delivery to patients, and even fintech. Clearly there's a lot of wallets competing for attention right now, but the whole financial system and the pipes that connects everything. And we've learned this in many markets, China, US, Indonesia, that there's a number of services that will be coming online over the next few years. So that those are very exciting opportunities. And then for Golden Gate Ventures, doubling down, opening 2 offices in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, it's just the reality that this is a market that has been important for us, but what we're basically saying is over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to put significant dollars to work here, effectively more than doubling our investments to date.
Yeah, thank you. And just wanted to know, is that this move is honestly better assist to your portfolio to expand to this market?
So what we love to see is both directions. So portfolio companies that expand into Vietnam, and we've had that with funding societies, Carousel with their acquisition of Chotat. So we encourage that. The one thing, and so for everybody that's on this call, I kind of feel like hopefully I could be a small little catalyst in this much larger sort of ecosystem. There is a glass ceiling here, and that is for Vietnamese startups, technology startups, to go abroad. And when you look at the biggest startups in the region, they're in multiple countries, and that is really important for investors to see that huge potential in value. So that is something we hopefully can help, not just our portfolio, but just the ecosystem in general. And for any startups on the call, we can be at all helpful in just strategically understanding other markets and why and how to enter and the opportune time, how to build out a team, how to partner with somebody. More than happy to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your sharing. So joining our panel today, we also have Tim Lee, who had traveled all the way from Korea to Vietnam to start his business 3 years ago, correct? So Tim, what brought you to Vietnam? And can you share more about your entrepreneurial journey to Vietnam?
Yes, I believe there's a lot of opportunity in Vietnam because Vietnam is ASEAN market bridgehead, and also there's a look at the COVID time. Vietnam recovery is very fast, and they have a good strategy to how to control. And in the meantime, industry 4.0 and many startups keep appearing in Vietnam market. And I knew the fact there is a lot of money coming into Vietnam. That's why even our company is backed up by Korean government, and we do get grants more than 100K every year. And that's why I choose to come in Vietnam, see if we can start it from the Vietnam, which we can expand to another ASEAN market. And I believe Vietnam will become next Silicon Valley in terms of in Southeast Asia. So yeah, I think this is like great place to testing and see if there is a product market fit in ASEAN market, and then starting to expand to many different countries. Yeah, I think that's why I choose in Vietnam.
Yeah. 3 years ago, right? It means like slightly before COVID. So just a quick question personally for myself. How did you find the time during COVID? I mean, this time last year, was it really tough for your business and yourself as well?
Yeah, obviously there was many startup couldn't survive during the COVID, but in correct situation, like our service is contactless service. So we are minimizing the contact between the supplier and a consumer. So we are having some type of luck for us to easily educate the customer in Vietnam. And as you know, awesome. Even though there is a huge impact about COVID, Vietnam government had a strong strategy to recover the COVID. So I think it wasn't having a big problem for me and our teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like you and your team also did a good job there. And I mean, survive and also growth, as you mentioned, that you're studying with the office and expansion to Ho Chi Minh City. So that's great to hear. So yeah, I think from all the webinar today, we hear a lot about market entry strategy, right? This is very crucial yet tough. And let's talk about how to building local, how to build up a local business partnership. So for the past 10 years, holding direct positions and making significant impacts on the growth and cross-border exchange among startup and innovation system. No one better than Mr. Thang to share more about the opportunities and also challenges when starting business in Vietnam. So Mr. Thang, can you just share what are the opportunities and also challenges for overseas startup to work with companies in Vietnam? And what is your advice for startup when approaching and building a partnership with Vietnamese companies? So I think I myself and also our attendees here would love to hear some kind of real story from your experience as well.
Let's say if because we have team here from Korea, so let's talk about the story about the Korean startup that we help to penetrate in this market and how they overcome it. Basically, we look at Korea and Vietnam. We kind of have the same culture, some of the values. So for those who from Korean that penetrate in Vietnam market, they don't have a lot of challenge. Because like a Vietnamese love K-pop, and if someone found out that, oh, this guy from Korea is, you already have some of the favor with that, and which is great. But some of the Korean cannot speak English quite well, or they have to practice Vietnamese. So it's a big challenge on the way that they communicate with the local for what they want. And sometimes they need the interpreter, and which is actually prevent them from how understand their partner well enough, so then they can connect and leverage from that more, which is something that I have to say. And one of the opportunity that I saw from Korea is that they have from the Korean government, they have the Southern policy, which is quite rate that they encourage that SME or startup or big corporate that penetrate in other countries, especially like Vietnam. And because of these incentive, well, if they start up in Vietnam, is actually they have an advantage of the finance support one way. Another way is that they can leverage and join some of accelerator in Vietnam, which co-host or partnered by the Korean or the Vietnamese, which is great for that. So but that's for the opportunity. But for the challenge, I feel like I feel like one of so among a couple 100 startups that jump in the market, there are 2 startups that I have to say that we should warn them earlier, because when we see their strategic plan, when we see the way that they build a team, or they in a team they don't have a lot of local where that can bring a lot of insight for them. Most of the team is from other country, and they trying to penetrate very aggressively with a very tiny financial backup, and which is not really good. And they don't have any plan that they want to join in any accelerator after the program, which is not really good for them, because when you don't have the strong partner and you don't have someone that guide you well, you live in a foreign place, whereas your resource is limited, even is a lot, but you don't know how to exploit it. So how can you leverage from your business? And starting, even you have advantage in your own country, but when you come here, everything is new. So if you have the local partner and those who can help you well, I think that can be easier, and some of the mistakes can be prevented. And that's to start up from Thailand. I have to say they are very near from us, and they had to shut down just 6 or 7 months, and which is not really nice story to share, but even they are very near us, and they are, it's just 40 minutes to fly, and it's easy to understand each other. But I don't until now I'm a bit sad to share that. So from the opportunity and the challenge, I think that if you are too optimistic about the opportunity and you are lack of the well reparation, you are facing the challenge that you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, I see.
and that is and that is the point that I want to share. Yeah,
I see. Thank you very much. I think yes, that is good luck. Yeah, that's sad for that two businesses that you mentioned from Thailand, but I think for all of us, it's good to learn from the failure. And from your sharing, I think some of the difficulties or challenges is the language barrier and also the plans you mentioned about. I'm really interested in the point that you shared that the startup, they're coming here with very, a little bit too confident and then blend without local insight, which is local people. I think there's something very good that we have to knock down somewhere for the lesson, and also the plan to explore the resources that you mentioned. And of course, innovation is a key to success. So thank you very much for a very insightful sharing. So to that flow, I would love to hear a little bit more from teams and also your teams, your Carac team. So Carac is expanding its footprint in Vietnam, right, through growing partnership network and so various companies and organizations here. And so, team, can you tell us about your experience or maybe the most interesting partnership with a local company? And what are the key takeaways to tips off foreign entrepreneurs today when they're looking for a business partner in Vietnam? Any tips?
Yeah, so luckily we had 5 MOU so far, and just in 2022, and the key most of the MOU has been started from the LinkedIn. So I was spending lots of time to get in touch with some of the chip level in this startup ecosystem, and that helped me a lot. And the second of all is like a ticket power. Like since we got the investment through some VC, it was easier for us to talk with some of the MOU partner who can join the ecosystem together, and that really helps me a lot. So there's a two main thing that I wanted to share is the first one is because of the poor infrastructure in some area, like we need to work together to increase the transaction and having a better impact on this society. So we were always open to being a partner with those business partners, and that's the first thing. And the second thing is about how we can bring the value and how we can share the profit together. And from the beginning, I literally talk about MOU, like what should be put it on the MOU, and like Tang was mentioned before, Korean perspective and Vietnamese perspectives are very similar, and we have a very similar culture. And I know it's little too hassle to talk about what type of profit from the beginning, but I choose to do that, and it drive us very fast to finishing up the contract. So yeah, that was one of my strategy to finishing the MOU and finishing the contract with the business partners. Yes.
Thank you for your sharing. I love to hear that, and thank you, Tim. I think from your sharing, also Mr. Tang sharing, I think it can be through one of the opportunities and also kind of advantage of Vietnam as a market is that all the Vietnamese peoples are very friendly, isn't it? And so that is not that difficult to start a conversation, even on LinkedIn, for example, that we can start some coffee, that we can go out and then we can discuss about business and something like that. I think is a good way to kickstart a conversation. So our tips here, I think, from Team also and Pang is about kickstart a conversation and just talk about it, and then you can find the right partners in Vietnam. Thank you very much. And also, I think joining the discussion today, I think we talked about building up the local partnerships as a part of the market entry strategy. I think Sunwah should be one of the most dynamic players here. So Sunwah is a Hong Kong corporate, but making Vietnam as a second biggest business hub, and recently expanding to innovation, positioning as a cross-border ecosystem builder. So how Sunwah facilitate the market entry for overseas startup as both a corporate and an innovations ecosystem builder? So Ms. Katie, could you please share with us about this?
Yeah, so thank you for your question, Kevin. So I think for Sunwah, since we are a Hong Kong conglomerate, but however, our main business is in mainland China, and the second main business area is actually Vietnam and Southeast Asia country. So we have been doing business for decades, and why we decided to start our business in innovation. So I think the first one is our chairman, Dr. Jonathan Choi, and our CEO, Mr. Jesse Choi. We see the potential of startups and also the young people of not only in Vietnam, but also in other countries to really develop and move forward. So we would like to set up Innovation Center as a platform to connect all the partners, which Sunwah actually has had I think for more than 60 years since our establishment. So we in our network and during our history, we not only have the business partners, but also many other partners like universities, incubators, accelerators, and VCs, which we think they will play a very key role in supporting startups. So for example, like in mainland China, we have a few innovation centers, and actually our innovation centers in Wuxi and also in Nansha of Guangdong province actually successfully supported many mainland Chinese startups to work with the local companies. For example, like in producing some kind of health products and also software. And I think it's a good model that our innovation center in Vietnam and also in Cambodia can follow. So like in Vietnam, what we can support, I think, is also very similar to what Mr. Thắng and Mr. Thich mentioned earlier, and also like Tim mentioned, that before you come to a market, I think we need to have a very good local partners. So I think for Sunwah, as I mentioned earlier, we act as a connector and a platform. So with our range of network and also stakeholders, we can divert and also introduce the relevant partners to the startups who wish to enter the Vietnamese market. However, I think before one startup really, decide to come into Vietnam, they really need to know their competitive needs in the market first. And if they think that they have the potential to go to Vietnam, I suggest they go to Vietnam in person, because you have to know the country and you have to know the people before you can really do anything. Because I think the culture and the relationship building is very important in Vietnam. So with relationship building, you can do almost anything. Like here, for example, like I think what Tim did is really smart. Like he connected with the local people via LinkedIn, and as Kevin said, we are very friendly. We can, have a quick talk, quick coffee chat with you to share with you the market insights, and also maybe introduce some context in the ecosystem. Everybody is very dynamic and active. So I think that is what Sunwah Innovations is really doing. However, apart from being a connector and a platform, Sunwah is still a business company. So we also look for investment opportunities with, I think, very good startups, and we think it's a good model and maybe fit with our ecosystem in Vietnam, in Cambodia, or maybe in mainland China. We are really happy to support the development of the startups in Vietnam, because in Vietnam we also have a few industries like in the property, financial services, or coffee, or even co-working space. So we think that with those verticals, we can also support the relevant startups to maybe do pilot, or maybe to really have some knowledge on the market, local markets. And if it fits with our business in mainland China, like we also have the wine production or maybe cosmetic production, we can also introduce if the startups are really strong enough.
Wow, amazing, amazing. So I love your sharing. I love the energy as well, Ms. Katie. Since like it's a startup, you see how of the dynamic and also the vibe of the people here in the ecosystem, right? And as I totally agree that all the people in the ecosystem, we are very open to discuss and also sharing. Even like you mentioned, we can introduce you to some of the contacts and somebody who can help you to give some local insight. That's great to hear. And also one of the, I think the takeaway is that it's very appealing to foreign startup if we come to Vietnam, since that, yeah. But anyway, there's a story between the egg and the chicken, right? If we do never kick the ball, so it's never happened. So I think that's important to know that we should kickstart doing now whatever we want to enter the market. So thank you very much. And may I have a question for Mr. Vietnamese? I think from your experience from investing not only in Vietnam, Asia, South Asia, also around the world. So what kind of startup would be likely to succeed in Vietnam from your opinions, and also in the region as well? Any secret formula that you want to unveil today?
For a startup to be successful?
Yeah, what kind of startup? Yeah, what kind of startup would be likely to succeed in Vietnam?
I'll use that word likely because the reality is startup success stories come in all shapes and sizes. So that on the webinar, I don't want to say you need to look like X, but
yeah,
generally, multiple co-founders. So not having a single founder. That's important for two reasons. One would be it's really difficult, and going through the ups and downs, having somebody to lean on is incredibly helpful. Number two, there should be a complement of backgrounds, CTO in a business, or if you want to go to Indonesia, an Indonesian Vietnamese founder. I can say Caro, one of our most successful startups out of Singapore, was started by a Singaporean, an Indonesian, and a Thai that met overseas at school. And they launched in 3 markets on day 1, which was very unique, but it has been really part of their success. So that would be one. I think for any startup, the idea of a CEO that demonstrates the ability to be a great leader and inspire people behind them, because whether you're inspiring a local team or you're inspiring your expansion or you're acquiring a company and want that CEO of that smaller company to be behind you, being able to inspire people. And I think third would be having some experience doing cross-border business. Maybe it's been working for a company overseas. Maybe it's studying abroad. Whatever it might be, just having some experience there is definitely going to make the lessons that need to be learned happen a little bit faster.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think a lot of insightful insight there that also helpful for all of the attendees today. So attendees, please drop in the question in the Q&A box right below of the Zoom that we can answer and address at the Q&A section. Just before we end the panel discussion today, for summing up, so I believe all of the attendees and also myself, good luck to hear from all of the panelists. So what is your short piece of advice to the international startup to have a good start for the entry to Vietnam? So anybody want to share first? Can you just shout out or just unmute yourself and say, hey, how about, I think teams, any sharing advice?
Yes, for international startup to entry in Vietnam, you must have a startup mindset, and second of all, you must have a commitment. And because over the long journey, you will have an up and down. And like Bini was saying, multiple co-founder always help, and because you share the pain, share the joyful moment, and that's really helps on keep you continuing your business. And the last one will be, is your startup really solving any type of problem? And that's all. I think that's all you need for you to keep running your business. So and for as an international startup, obviously have to check the business license like ERC, IRC before, and like those type of business license should be checked out before the starting the business. Yeah, I think that's all I can share. Yeah.
Thank you, team. So how about you, and Thang, Mr. Thang? What's your advice for foreign startups?
Well, I cannot share that an advice, but it's more on I share my view about the entrepreneur. If you are an entrepreneur, the first thing you should do is to prepare yourself to communicate quite well, to sell yourself and your idea first. First of all, for yourself, and then your partner, and then your employee. And then you can find other partner to join with you as a partner, as a buyer, as a seller, I don't know. But communication, storytelling, to make you equip and link with people. But if you don't prepare with the mindset that in some game we can win, but in some game we can lose. And if we don't have that kind of mindset to keep in mind that, well, for some people, they lost the project and they become a loser. And for me, if you lost a project, you just lost a project or lost a game, you are not a loser. So don't make yourself a loser. If you lost something, you lost on the way that you run with your startup, because at the end of the day, if you are an entrepreneur, you're supposed to make the impact on other life. And that burden, you have to balance with yourself and your partner on the way you make your business. And that's how it's go. Yeah, that's my view.
Yeah, thank you. So how Vinny sharing about that?
I don't know if I have more additional. At the end of the day, I mean, just leveraging some anecdotes. Here's next. So everybody looks to Silicon Valley as this magical place, and it's not about being American. The reality is people don't realize this. 51% of founders in Silicon Valley, even some of the biggest companies you can think of, Facebook, YouTube, are not born in the US. They're from somewhere else in the world. And so just to give that as ideas that people from different backgrounds may come together, make amazing things, because that's the magic of innovation. It's not some big aha idea moment. It's always a small, Google wasn't the first search engine. There was AltaVista and Lycos. Facebook wasn't the first social network. So just bringing people with different backgrounds that would see the same sort of problem and have different solutions, that's the magic there. And it doesn't all happen at once. It happens in small little steps. And as a VC, what we're trying to do is really identify individuals and a founding team that shows the potential to grow there. And we know it's risky, and we know a third of the companies we invest in are not going to be around in a few years, and we're okay with that. We want them taking that sort of risk, but we're looking for teams that show that propensity to grow really big.
Yeah, thank you. Say the best for last. So our beautiful lady, Miss Kate, any advice?
Yeah, I also share the same position with Anh Thắng, that I don't regard them as advice, but I think maybe some tips and some hints or suggestions from my point of view. So actually, to be honest, I think now in Vietnam, there is no organization helping with the soft landing of overseas startups into the Vietnamese market. That's what I have to admit. Like even like Sunwah Innovations or InnoLab or even like NIC, we are just supporting organizations to facilitate the inflow of overseas startups to Vietnam. So I think all the journey that the startups from overseas want to enter Vietnam, you have to make it yourself. So you need to invest time, you need to invest your effort, and also maybe your financial as well, to really understand the market, and also maybe to identify the journey that you want to do if you go to Vietnam. And as Anh Thắng mentioned, the game, sometimes you can win, sometimes you can lose, right? So maybe at this time you may lose, but once you go to Vietnam, the contacts that you build, the people that you meet will be still there. And then I think it's no harm if maybe after a few years, when you come back and you see it's the right time for you to enter, then you already have some available resources that you already accumulate and have in the past. So I think there is no harm to start building your network right now in Vietnam. So the time you enter the market, actually depending on the maturity, also the capacity of your startup. But I think network building is never too late. And I think the second thing is also you need to really have all the local knowledge. And the team going to Vietnam needs to have the local people, because I think only the local people knows Vietnam's the best. So we can tell you where the local people likes your product, likes your service, and also if there is any potential for you to develop further. And I think the last one is, I think there is, in Vietnam, doing business in Vietnam, you cannot rush. Because sometimes you need to be very patient, you know, to really look for the right partners. I think even some Vietnamese unicorns, it takes them decades, like more than 10 years or 20 years to really become a unicorn. Even, you know, they are backed up by a very big companies or groups in Vietnam. However, to, you know, to really go separate from their mother company and become a unicorn, it takes them a lot of effort and time. So I think in Vietnam, to really prosper, you cannot rush. So I think that's all the suggestions and the hints I can share with the audience.
Well, thank you very much, all of our panelists. I think a lot of good stuff here, right? So to sum up, I think I really love the sharing of Ms. Katie's and Pam's regarding, you know, Plan B and how you deal with that, how you have to be patient with what we are doing, because entering a new market is not that easy that you can just do within, you know, 1 month or just a year. That's something you have to start building and just start working on just the objectives that you want. And it could be the plans, but the important here is that we should have plan B or plan C. It doesn't mean like you should have one plan and you just, you know, put all the effort to that plan and that's going to be a loser, as Mr. Tang's mentioned. That's a very important point for us. And I think for Vietnam, I really love the sharing of Miss Katie's that, hey, yeah, and you have to be patient doing business in Vietnam. It's just not only because, you know, we are slow, but in the other reason that we kind of carefully to choose the partners, and in the way that we just want to partners in a long term is more loyalty way. It doesn't mean like, hey, you just do one-time, one-off campaigns or one-off activities and then you just disappear. It doesn't like that. So that reason why it takes a bit more time. So that I just mentioned that to all of the attendees in case that you say, hey, it doesn't mean you're doing busy enough, it's too slow. Wow. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful section today, and I hope we are not behind the schedules. And thanks for the insightful sharing from all the panelists joining us today. So very much appreciated. And I believe each of us can have a few takeaways from the sharings. I myself have a lot of things here in my notes in the paper here, and the panel discussion is coming to an end. So thank you very much for all of the attentions. And now handing it over back to the organization team. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Kelvin, and our panelists for an insightful discussion, which I can see our audience are very excited to follow up on your sharing with a lot of questions that we received by the registration and also in the Q&A box. So within 15 minutes for the Q&A, we cannot provide the answer to all the questions. So the audience, you can reach out to our panelists via LinkedIn or the contact details on their website. That's released in the chat box to discuss more after the event. So now I will assist Kelvin to raise some questions to the panelists. I may direct one question to one of the panelists, but others that have a thought, please chime in with your inputs as well. So for the first question, I would like to also invite Mr. Thich to back to the panelists so that can also address some questions from the participants. Anh Thich ơi, anh có thể mở lại that. Okay. So the questions that's from one, I think from two startups in Hong Kong that they asked, are there any government subsidies for the startup in general and also the tech startup in specifics? So for this question, I would like to direct to Mr. Thich, please.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Thuy. And Vietnam government, I think, like another government in the world, now we support a lot for startup. For enterprise, especially in the technology. So that's why also in Vietnam we have some program can support with money for startup when we do some business line like clean tech, health tech, fintech, something like that. And for example, in In NIC, we also have the project. We call it the ADB Venture Project. We work with ADB, and we can sponsor around maximum is $2,000 for one startup. If the startup can in our priority like the clean tech or fintech or health tech. So I'm sure we have some program can subsidize for startup. Thank you.
Thank you, Anh Thệ. I'm not sure if Kelvin is still here. Okay, I see Kelvin. So the next question I would like to ask, this question is from Vincent Chan from the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, a very close partner of us in Hong Kong. So he asked for the technology companies who want to expand to the Vietnam market, what are the first 3 steps they should do? I think some of the panelists already addressed this, but I would like to give this question to Kelvin as well, as the incubator in the universities. We also support some overseas startups to come to Vietnam. So do you have any suggestion, like what are the first 3 steps for the overseas startup, especially tech startup, to come to Vietnam?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So similar to other advice already shared in the panels, I think we should well prepare, and especially for tech, I think I would like to address on that. So I think startup, for me, it's not even easier, but it's in a way that you have to really understand the local insights. So from my real experience, when we have some tech startup founder come to Vietnam, it's good for them because the tech guy usually not really focused on the business side, some kind of that. So it's good for all of that startup founding team come together to Vietnam, sit down and talk with some local, the end user in Vietnam, to listen to the feedback, to understand what they really need. And from all of that, feedback, we can have some way of modification for the application if we want to, or we can have the better approach, to really tackle the new market, because the tech is always like that, right? But for the approach and also the inside of the user is always different, and it's changing very fast as well. When we mentioned about Generation Z and also some other new trend and new social media platform as well. So I think the most important advice that come to have a real get your hand dirty with all of the consumer discussion here. I think that's a good way. Yeah.
Right. And any other panelists want to add a thought on that question too? Okay, so the next question I received in the Q&A box from Marcus. So he asked, what is the exit strategies for those current startups that is funded by the VC in Vietnam? As we know, the local stock exchange requirement is not favorable for the technology startups. So for these questions, who want to take this question? Maybe Vinny?
Sure. And which I have the questions up. Which one is this one?
Okay, so can I repeat the question? Okay. So the question is, what is the exit strategies for those current startups that are funded by the VC in Vietnam, the venture capital firm in Vietnam? As we know, the local stock exchange requirements is not favorable to technology startups.
So to that, I would say, there's no difference here than you would see in Singapore or Indonesia, except it's time shifted. And I think 10 years ago, you could have said Singapore was not, and Indonesia was not favorable to tech startups. But in Indonesia alone, you've had 3 in the past 12 months that have gone public, and one being Gojek, GoTo, where shareholders have done quite successfully compared to their counterpart Grab in New York, or even SEA Group, the parent of Shopee. So I think with time that will change. So I am very optimistic in a realistic sort of way that over the next 5 to 10 years, we will see that here in Vietnam. And yeah, I do look on that long of a horizon. It's not like over the next 2 years, this needs to sort of change, because what you saw in Indonesia was, for a lot of big guys, they weren't choosing to go public until they were tens of billions of dollars of value and raised hundreds of millions of dollars in capital. So I think to get a few startups out of Vietnam that are doing that, we're still a few years away. And then lastly, I'll just add that for exits, because at the end of the day, an exit is not an exit for a founder. You know, the CEO of Gojek is still the CEO. It's really only an exit for a VC, and there are different ways that exits may look in that sense. It could be an M&A, merger acquisition, that's happened quite a bit across the portfolio. For investors, you know, secondary, that's very popular in places like Korea and the US, starting to get popular here. So there are many ways that an exit for an investor can come. But at the end of the day, you know, it's the exciting IPO, and I do see that happening.
Thank you, Vinny. The next questions, there's one startup that do in the, I think, translation startup empowered by machine learning. So he asked if he wants to find the local in Vietnam, how to overcome the language barrier, especially for some tech startup that is very hard to explain in even the local language. Any panelists want to take this question? Maybe I ask Mr. Thang, if, as you have a lot of experience to guys for the overseas startup when coming to Vietnam.
So could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so how to overcome the language barrier for the overseas startup to find a local partner here, especially for the startup who are very tech incentive?
Well, I am not sure that the person that raised the question is single or not, but most of the most of the guy that I know are if they are single, and the best way that they say they learn the local language is to get a girlfriend or boyfriend in a local country, and that is the best way that they learn the local language. So if you want to overcome the language barrier, well, can be some of the first tip for you. But if you are like married already, so I think you have to push yourself a bit harder, because the human touch is create a moment where we can understand the same language. Either you try to find someone that can speak your language, or you speak their language. Either way. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we need to share the same language to get connected. So well, I'm not sure that how technical your business is, but either you find a good one, someone that can speak your language, or you have to improve yourself to speak their language. Either way.
Oh, may I have just add on to this for the question, because I coming from the background of a university incubator. So I think the advice for the person who raised the question is that I think English is important. If you coming from other country doesn't speak English, I think English is important. If you speak English and you come to Vietnam, I think is can be not a problem for you, because I think the young generation right now in Vietnam, they speak English quite well. And for example, like for our student at our university, the University of Economics in Ho Chi Minh City, with 30,000 students studying in our university, I think they can speak English quite good, and then they can help you to understand the local inside, how to partner with a local partnership, for example. But the key point is that you should find somebody who passionate and who can speak English fluently with you, so that it can help you a lot. For the tech, you mentioned about the tech, especially for a tech area, right? I think in Vietnam right now, for example, like our university, we have have some bachelor degree with combining technologies and other entrepreneurship. We have one majors in our university called Technologies and Innovation, where students not only equipped in business side, but also equipped in technology side, whether they can understand technology terms and also the business landscape, so that it can help you. So I think for that kind of human resources in Vietnam, we are increasing and also supply more talents to the pool at the moment, so that no worry about that in case that you can speak English. Otherwise, it's a little bit hard, I think, for you, but no problem for tech at the moment, I think.
I think Kevin is a very good spokesperson of the University of Economics Ho Chi Minh City when he promotes the programs and also the students at the university. Tim, do you have anything to add on that question? As you also the overseas startup and work with some local partner in Vietnam.
Can I add something first? Yeah, so I think before Tim, I just want to add something. Follow with the comments by Kevin. So actually, I think for the tech intensive, we also like Sunwah Innovations, who also has received quite a few of inquiries from the overseas startups who are actually technology intensive. And also like for, I think another channel that you can look up, actually we have a lot of overseas Vietnamese who are working in the big companies, technology companies like Google, Microsoft, or even Facebook. So I think they're all software engineers and IT experts. So I think you can easily find them in some of the actually workshops, technology seminars organized by either the stakeholders in the ecosystem or even the ministry or the Vietnamese government, because they often got the invitation by the government or by the stakeholders to share with the IT workforce in Vietnam. So I think for them, English, of course, is not a problem, and also technology also not a problem. So if they can understand your solution, you can also connect with them and to talk more. So at the end of the day, the advice is still like you need to attend more events from the Vietnam market and also the Vietnam stakeholders to get contact and to really find an appropriate one to talk to.
Okay, Tim, do you want to add or we move to the next question?
Yeah, I think we should just move to the next one. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have time for maybe one last question. So what are the 3 most common failures of overseas company when setting up Vietnam company? So I guess like set up the Vietnam legal entity for the overseas startup. So what are the 3 most common failures?
Maybe I can start with this. So I think the 3 major thing will be not enough knowledge of a tech part. And I have seen many startup, they couldn't even finish up with their MVP and give up on during the journey. And I think in order to communicate with the tech people, you have to know at least some keyword to communicate easier. And the second one could be most of our startup, they fail because not good enough team member, like co-founders as itself. So it is very significant to find the right person who has the same goal and same vision on that industry. And the last one that I can say is most of startup, startup or any company, they have to forecast their funding round and forecasting their cost control. And it is significant to have a right accountant and like right person to keep giving you the knowledge and what else have to do for next round. Yeah. So those are the 3 things that I would like to share with you guys. Yeah.
Any other panelists want to give other feedback? Also, I think we still have time, so I want to ask about the last question. What are the opportunities for the environmental companies or also the climate tech solution startup to enter Vietnam? So Vinny, maybe I ask as a VC, do you see the trend for like ESG investment in Vietnam, or your firm yourself, do you have any interest in investing in the environmental startup in the future?
For ESG, I mean, quite a few of our startups. So is it specifically the environmental part or the whole ESG sustainable?
So maybe the environment first and then ESG in general. Yeah.
So environment first, 100% interest, and especially I'm trying to buy myself a VinFast electric scooter. So like personally interested in it, and I think that's a great company. And we've looked at some battery technology companies here. So things that having an impact on the environment. Yes. So somebody with 3 kids, 3 times, yes. And then just from an ESG standpoint, so there's a framework, one of the world organizations put out a few years ago, and Go to Gate Ventures actually, without even being aware of that, realized we actually filed quite a bit. And if you look at our portfolio, we share quite a bit of investments with impact-based funds, so pure impact-based funds. And the reality is, because a lot of what we invest in does have positive impact in the world. This could be through job creation, this could be through female entrepreneurs and co-founders, this could be for impact or minimal impact that they would have, minimum carbon footprint that they would have. And so a lot of our existing portfolio has actually fit the ESG framework. SDG.
Thank you so much. So I'm afraid we are out of time now. So thank you so much to all the panelists and our speakers for very great discussion and great sharing. So before we do the closings, there's an important note that we will offer the 15 minutes one-on-one consulting session with Mr. Thang from InnoLab Asia for 2 foreign startups with solid plan or serious interest in Vietnam market expansion to validate the market potential and give some recommendations on entering the market. So we have received quite a few registrations for the session, but for the startup who joined the webinar today and still interested in this opportunity, but have not registered, you can send the text to my email. You can see in the chat box that is 3.ho@swinno.com.vn. We will be in touch to arrange the call with the selected startup soon around the middle of July. So once again, thanks so much to all our speakers and panelists for great sharing and robust discussion. Big thanks to our co-organizer, the NIC and InnoLab Asia, and all our supporting partners. A shout out to our audience also for your engaging and interactive participation in the webinar today. We hope you find the presentation and sharing helpful to give you initial ideas regarding your Vietnam go-to-market plan. Of course, the 2-hour webinar cannot address all of your inquiry, concern, and needs, but we believe this will be a good opportunity to get to know some local folks and look forward to more connection and collaborations. Again, all our speakers are on LinkedIn, so you can try reaching out that way. We will also send a recap email to all of you with the recording of the webinar and links to all the organizations participating today. You can also follow Sunwah Innovations social media and contact us if you want to learn more about the Vietnamese market and the local player in the ecosystem. So finally, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day and goodbye.